Your president in Washington sends word that he wishes to buy our land. But how can you buy or sell the sky, the land? This idea is strange to us. If we do not own the freshness of the air or the spark of the water, then how can you buy them? Each part of this earth is sacred to my people. Every shining pine needle, every sandy shore, every mist in the dark woods, every meadow, every humming insect, all are holy in the memory and experiences of my people.
Well, Billy Frank has been involved in these fish wars from the very beginning. He went through some very tough times. Billy's case, what Billy did is he took a lot of lumps. He literally was beaten up by the police and was regularly putting himself physically on the line to speak out for fishing rights. And you see how far this has come to now. We're now on speaking terms, so to speak, with a lot of these very people that who were arresting our fishermen at one time, arresting them for just carrying on their way of life. And Billy, for all of the time he's been involved, has been acting on that principle, that we have a way of life, that nothing changed that. In fact, treaties spelled out what those rights were, and he held them to that word. And he was badly beaten for it. But now he's a highly respected figure in both in fisheries and in tribal government.
On February 12, 1974, federal Judge George Bolt issued a historic ruling allocating 50% of the annual fish catch to Western Washington tribes bound by the 1854 and 1855 federal treaties. Clashes between tribal and non-tribal fishermen and regulators resulted, but a decade later, tribal and industry leaders would find a more cooperative way to resolve fish and forestry issues. Into this political cauldron rode Stuart Bledsoe. Stu served as WFPA's executive director from 1977 until his untimely death in 1988. Stu was an enigma, charismatic, charming, and deadly effective when the need arose. Bledsoe was just what the forest industry needed to take them from the World War II mindset into the environmental age.
Let me share something with you for opener, sort of the theme of this thing. And it's a feeling that I've had. When you get to be sort of old and wearing out like I am, you take a look at the hourglass, you realize there's more that's run out than is there to run, you know. Well, I've decided that if that's the way it's going to be, I'm damned if I'm going to rust out. I'm going to wear out.
Bledsoe and Billy Frank Jr. of the Nisqually tribe were the leaders of the pioneering Timber Fish Wildlife Agreement in 1987. TFW was the result of a 6-month-long, 60-meeting negotiation between tribes, state agencies, environmental groups, and the timber industry. TFW provided a new way to resolve forest practice disputes through negotiation in a neutral setting as opposed to being argued before a board, commission, or in a courtroom. TFW was announced on February 17, 1987, and received unanimous approval from the state legislature and the Forest Practices Board. TFW set the stage for cooperative natural resource management based on science.
We have to work together. We have to make sure that we work side by side with the forest industry. And so, you know, the tribes are aware of how to work together. What we always try to do, the tribes and the forest industry in the past, is stay the course. Find a balance to make sure that this forest is going to be here for the next generation and the next generation, you know.
The AMP, as we work it today, is an integral component of Washington State's Forest and Fish Report. It supports the report's 4 major goals. First, to provide compliance with the Endangered Species Act for aquatic and riparian-dependent species on non-federal forest lands. Second, to restore and maintain riparian habitat on non-federal forest lands to support a harvestable supply of fish, to meet the requirements of the Clean Water Act for water quality on non-federal forest lands, and to keep the timber industry economically viable in the state of Washington. I believe that our Forest Practices Adaptive Management Program may be the best such program in the United States. We have an assumption of collaboration that has been built into our system of regulating forest practices in Washington State. So I hope that we do not forget the lessons of the past, the lessons of collaboration that have been passed down from those who have gone before us.
In 1996, under the leadership of Executive Director Bill Wilkerson, the TFW Forum began discussions about how to protect endangered salmon and improve water quality on state and private forest land. This 18-month negotiation led to the Forests and Fish Agreement, which was signed into law by Governor Gary Locke in June 1999. This was the most significant achievement of resource protection on forest lands created during the last century, resulting in federal endorsements for our state's fish and water protections covering 9.3 million acres of forest land and 60,000 miles of stream habitat in Washington.
Gentleman District 19, Representative Domond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. I appreciate what my friend from the other side of the aisle has said about this bill. But I think those of us that faced reality with the spotted owl and the fact that we didn't step up to the plate to try to negotiate the best kind of arrangement that we could to meet the auspices of federal law regretted it. The last 2 years, the timber industry, with both large landowners and small landowners, tribes, and federal agencies as well as state agencies, sat at the table to try to negotiate the best, most comprehensive arrangement they could negotiate to meet the aspects of those two federal laws so that the state could have certainty for these industries.
The state now had a level of regulatory predictability with the Forests and Fish Law, which was long sought by WFPA since the 1970s. The law was the basis for Governor Christine Gregoire to sign the Forest Practices Habitat Conservation Plan in June 2006. This 50-year contract between the state and federal government assures private forest landowners in Washington state that their forest practices meet the requirements for aquatic species set forth in the Endangered Species Act. Washington is the only state in the Union to have achieved national recognition from the federal government under both the Endangered Species and Clean Water Acts.
We have to be a model for the world here in the Great Northwest, working with the timber industry and working with partners. The public has to be involved in everything that we do. We can't close our eyes and think all of it will go away. It's all working together and understanding and gaining trust among each other. And that'll give us hope for the future of all of us.
Where my passion comes from for natural resources is that I want to leave the state of Washington as well for my children and grandchildren as I found it. And the way of life that we've had here is critical to having a bright future for this state. We're working to have a very strong partnership between the tribes, the industry, and the conservation groups to create a sustainable model which will keep forestry around forever.
I've been at this work of conserving our landscapes for 30 years, and I look around this setting and it just cries why I do this work. We have a tradition of working forest lands in this state, and look what those forest lands provide each and every one of us. Clean air and clean water, good timber, and jobs. So there is a richness that we have in this state because we have both preserved land and active working timberland. And frankly, we need them both, and we need to make sure they're here not just today, but tomorrow and beyond.
To plant a tree, a seedling, especially when you're our age, you're not going to see that harvested in my lifetime. So it's an act of faith.
To me, working together and coming together like this afternoon is hope for our younger people, the generation that's here today that has to we got to hand this management off to them at some point in time, and they have to understand what management is all about and what sustainability is all about. Sustainability is about us, our life, and our hope.
I'm pretty optimistic. Neither of you are stuck in yesterday's battle. So if you two aren't, what we need to do working together and what we need to tell the generations after us is to be bold, to be strikingly bold, and to have the courage to work together, which takes courage, the courage to work together, the faith to work together, and to really try new solutions, not just the old ways of fighting, but really work on new solutions. And I think we can get through this.